be here. I love Chicago. All right, so my name's Travis Kalanick. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give a little background on myself. Then I'll dive into some experiences that I've had, some good stories, and maybe some questions, stuff like that. So let's have some fun. All right, so who am I? So first, I like to think of myself as the wolf in Pulp Fiction. Like, what the hell is that? So if you guys remember Pulp Fiction, there's the guy who comes in when the shit hits the fan, and then there's like a body in the back of the car, and there's all these problems, and John Travolta's having issues, and like all stuff's going down. At this point, I work with startups. I'm an investor in startups. I'm an angel investor. I'm an advisor, but I'm more entrepreneurial. So what happens is I actually get in there. One example, let me give you an example of being the wolf. One of my companies has an investor who is formerly a billionaire, who is about to declare personal bankruptcy. And he owns 50% of the company and put in $7 million to get that 50%. And about 3 months ago, called us and said, I'm going to need to liquidate all of my shares in your company. And I'm going to need to do it by next week. And we're like, oh, okay, that's really interesting. So I get the call, I get the next call. And then the next thing you know, we're doing an auction with a bunch of VCs to sell off his piece. And that sounds simple and straightforward, sort of, not really. But just to make it more complicated, what we wanted to do was we wanted to sell new shares of our company at a very high price and pay him off with the money we get at a very low price. And we wanted to turn his 50% of the company into 25% and have an additional $5 million in the bank. So that's what it's like being the wolf. Startup Consigliere. I have a company right now whose revenues are going through the roof, several $1 million run rate. An amazing senior management team, a young but very talented CEO. And for some reason, the VCs want to get rid of them. I can't understand why. And so I get a call, like, hey, we got to make sure this doesn't happen. That's something I see very often. Sometimes it's a company. On the next one is the funding shepherd. Sometimes there's a company that I've already decided I've been working with. I'm advising, and it's time for them to go out and get funding. I'm like, I'm in. Let's do this thing. But the chunks of the checks that I write, which are out of my own personal bank account, they can't get the whole thing funded. So we need to go and get this thing done. And there's been a number of situations where I have to go and really help shepherd that round together. Interim CXO, a lot of times, company may not have a CTO, may not have a head of sales, may not have whatever. I can come in and do it. My background is varied. I started as an engineer, but went all the way to enterprise sales. Depends on the company that I've done. Sole proprietor of the Jam Pad. So I have my house, basically, the entrepreneurs that I work with, they have nicknamed my house the Jam Pad. And what that means is all times of the day, probably there's 5 or 6 or 7 different entrepreneurs that come in at various parts of the day. Sometimes it's 15. But they come in at different times. Sometimes it's scheduled, sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's in the morning and we're talking about how to improve their sales strategy. Sometimes it's 1 a.m. and we're just talking about random ideas and technology. But it's the Jam Pad because we jam on entrepreneurial ideas, we jam on companies, on technology, et cetera. And so I look at myself as a curator of entrepreneurs. I'm an entrepreneur. I love entrepreneurs. I love entrepreneurism. And so I try to find really awesome entrepreneurs and work with them deeply in these ways that I've described. And there's a French term, éminence grisée. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing it properly, but basically it means, I don't know French, but basically it means that I'm the guy behind the scenes. So I don't get in front of my CEOs that I work with or that the investments that I make. I'm behind the scenes. And that's kind of how I operate. So what am I? Well, I have an insanely curious personality, right? So I am curious about ideas, and I'll go there. No ideas are bad ideas. Some are better than others, though. And I'm just curious, and I bring that curiosity to the table, and I think that makes me who I am, but that makes me a pretty decent entrepreneur. I'm Rain Man analytical. I am a numbers guy. To the demise of myself sometimes, some people really get, I'm counting the toothpicks, like on the floor. Like I am watching all the numbers and am just cranking Excel sheets, SQL queries, the whole nine. I really love numbers. I feel that God is in the details, and I really dig deep there. I'm deeply scarred. So I did a company called Red Swoosh, which was about 4 or 5 years too early to market. 4 years, the first 4 years I didn't pay myself. That meant living with my mom. That meant not getting any girls, that's for sure. That meant a lot of hard times. That meant hearing 100 no's a day, every day for 4 years straight. But eventually turned that into something. And Braveheart passion, right? So, man, I get passionate about the things that I work on. I went through a lot of stuff to get to where I am, and so the entrepreneurs that I work with and the companies I invest in are because I want to be there, because I see something beautiful in what they're doing, something beautiful in that person. Let's go do amazing stuff together. So, cool factoids on myself. Again, I'm just doing some background stuff, and then we'll get into some interesting stories. But cool factoids. I sold $20,000 worth of knives in a summer. Yeah, I sold stuff. Anybody here sell Cutco knives? Anybody else? Oh, we got one. I'd be pumping gas, and my friends would be like, looking pretty sharp today, Travis. I'm like, fuck, damn it. Okay. I did the OG P2P Pirate. So I think Frank talked a little bit about this. I was in the Computer Science Undergraduate Association at UCLA, and we were sending emails to each other with attachments of music files and video files and images. This is in like 97, 98, and we're like, man, wouldn't it be cool if there was just a place to search for this stuff? And so we did that. We were the first peer-to-peer pirates. It was awesome. Sued for the GDP of Sweden. $250 billion, or I like using it this way, $250 billion. And so that's what happens when college students get stuff for free that they're not supposed to get. It was an interesting day. Man, stories about how we got sued and how that went down, really interesting. I've had a few billionaire investors on my boards. Mark Cuban's one of them, really amazing guy, awesome. I've had some crazy ones too. Well, actually, all billionaires are crazy. I actually have a model for this. I call it the billionaire craziness curve. But a guy named Michael Ovitz, another guy named Ron Burkle were involved in Scour. And actually, so Scour, we got sued, and well, we made a strategic move when we got sued, and it was basically declaring Chapter 11. And that strategic move was, well, you take that lawsuit and it ends up being a liability, and when you go to bankruptcy court, it gets stayed. Litigation gets stayed. It gets put in the bucket of liabilities. And they say, well, we're going to solve this liability, this litigation in 2 weeks instead of 10 years. And it was really interesting because we forced the copyright guys who didn't want to see copyright law settled in a bankruptcy court in 2 weeks. They settled out of court. And so we paid them $1 million cash. We turned the technology off, and we sold our company in a courtroom. So it was literally an auction. And we had a judge like, I hear a $5 million. Do I hear a 6? Do I hear a 7? And it was crazy. Very interesting to see the company you build basically gets sold in a matter of 20 minutes. Anybody who's sold a company in the other way knows how weird that must be. A few more. Let's see. Any entrepreneurs here that would consider themselves successful entrepreneurs? Nobody's raising their hand. Oh, we got one. We got two. I guarantee you that I am more non-lucky than both of you combined. And what I mean by that is I wouldn't say I'm unlucky. I would just say that, man, the lucky breaks just weren't coming, right? Nobody would say that I was a lucky entrepreneur. I worked my ass off and was just super persistent. In 2007, so what happened is with Scour, we got sued. We went out of existence. I told you about that stuff. We basically took our expertise in peer-to-peer technology and took those 33 litigants. There were 33 of the largest media companies in the world that sued us, took those 33 litigants and turned them into customers with my next company, which was called Red Swoosh. Well, at some point, basically, when you have a peer-to-peer search, you have a face. It's a search engine. You type something in and you get your results. We took the face off, and the peer-to-peer technology was still there. It was just a network stack. And instead of you searching for things you're not supposed to get, now you're just clicking on links, and it's pulling peer-to-peer and saving those same content providers money. So at some point, we had 10 million persistently connected machines. It was a botnet that we could control from the center. It was kind of cool. This is tech geeky. I don't know if anybody's even going to care, but I'm probably one of 5 people who know what symmetric to symmetric NAT traversal is. Okay. Social Network. Who saw the movie? Most people, yes. Okay, I was written out of a scene and replaced by an Asian woman. Okay? The meeting where Sean Parker meets Zuck in the restaurant, Sean and I took Zuckerberg out to dinner, FYI, and Sean after that dinner was like, Facebook, nah. I thought it was amazing. At the time, I would either email or call my girlfriend anytime I met somebody awesome and amazing, because I didn't have any money to invest, just to sort of like put it on the record. I called my girlfriend at the time, right after that dinner, and I said, I just met the smartest 20-year-old on the planet. Okay, I was written out of that scene, just saying. Oh, later that night, so after I met the smartest 20-year-old on the planet, later that night, Zuck and I went out drinking in New York. He was still 20. I snuck him into a bar. We got wasted. That's happened. All right, next. Okay, so brief history. So I started as sort of like a hobbyist hacker, coder dude. My first company was when I was 18. It was actually a company called New Way Academy. It was SAT prep, old school, no technology. I burned out on filling out bubbles, with a pencil, A, B, C, D, etc. But man, I can kill the SAT. I've been timed 8 minutes on a half-hour math section. Okay, all right, sorry. All right, so talked about some of the other stuff here. As I said, now I'm sort of a curator of sorts. In my collection, if I'm a curator, what is my collection? This is my collection right here. A lot of investors, they say, and they put up only the ones that sold, and then the 50 other ones that didn't, that were crap. They don't talk about those. That's everything. And so I feel like I've got a good eye for this kind of art. Some of the really interesting ones there, all of them are pretty interesting. CrowdFlower, super interesting, sort of labor on demand, Mechanical Turk for the enterprise, if you guys are familiar with Mechanical Turk. Formspring, super interesting, a 10-month-old company, 11-month now, that has almost 20 million registered users. That's pretty amazing. That's never happened in the history of the internet, as far as I know. I was actually one of the original guys behind Ubercab. So it was Garrett Camp at StumbleUpon's original idea. Him and I started jamming on what should this be. I incubated it and then brought in a guy named Ryan Graves to sort of run with it. That's, as you see, the cab is in parentheses. Actually, it's Uber now. I don't know if you guys have been keeping up with the news, but that business is killing it. But regulators are trying to put us out of business, which is kind of interesting. We're totally compliant. I can't wait to prove that to them. Kareo's, and this just shows sort of my range. I don't have I do this kind of company and that's it. Kareo is a healthcare IT company, and they are they're doing great. Really big revenues, several $1 million run rate, growing. well over 100% year over year right now, having a lot of fun with them. Honestly is another interesting one. They're formerly known as Unvarnished. But anyways, those are the folks that's my collection. So Frank said, hey, I want to, maybe we can talk about some of the Jampad lessons, some of the things I've learned by working with entrepreneurs, some of the cool things that are out there, not cool things to do, things not to do. And so I just put together a list of those things. We'll just go through them pretty quickly. I can't tell you, so this is more for angel-funded companies that are then looking at their next round, sort of like a Series A or a Series B. So often VCs come and say, look, we'll just give you a term sheet. Yeah, you don't have to do the whole funding process. It's going to waste your time and you can't run the business, and I know that's what you want to do. Preemptive deals are bad. Don't do it. Usually almost always ends up, you getting a raw deal. I can tell you so many stories about it. Don't get me started. I'll start crying and my face will get red. Ugh. Okay, next. VCs, I shouldn't say kill founding. VCs like to kill founders. It's crazy. Like I said, I'm on this company. The revenues are shooting through the frickin' roof. Insanely amazing senior management team. Everybody loves the CEO. Why are we getting rid of them? I don't understand. Can you please tell me why we're doing that? Somebody needs to crack this mystery. I don't really understand it. There are certain situations where a founder needs to sort of step aside and maybe be a chief product officer or something like that. But more often than not, I see VCs for some reason want to kill the founder and without a really good reason for it. Recommend in those situations having somebody, if you're one of those founders, having somebody on your side sort of call the VC who's doing this, call them to the mat during a board meeting. That can work out well. Fear is the disease. Hustle is the antidote. So in my day, I already sound like an old school dude. In my day, it was just tough, man. You start a company in 2001, good luck, right? You can't count on funding. You can't count on sales. You can't count on anything but just crazy hustle and just grit your teeth, claw your way to success. There was just no easy way to do it. What I find is a lot of the entrepreneurs today are much smarter than we were back in the day. They're like way smarter. They got blogs. They know what VCs are doing. They know everything that's going on in the space, where back then there was no such thing as a blog. Like basically you had like the LA Times, you know what I mean? It was like you had the industry standard or Wired, but you didn't know what was going on, and there was no philosophy of how to fund. VCs were not blogging every day. There was no Twitter where VCs were saying what they're up to, or entrepreneurs were saying, hey, do this or don't do that. There's a corpus of knowledge now that makes entrepreneurs today much smarter. But there's liquidity in funding, especially on the angel side. It used to be much harder to get an angel deal done than a Series A deal. Now, angel deals are a piece of cake. But what happens is I see a number of entrepreneurs who don't have that hustle. And they're afraid, and they act out of that fear. And when you act out of that fear, you make big mistakes. An example might be doing a preemptive deal with a VC, thinking they're your friend. An example might be like not being hardcore and keeping your job. An example might be not, a lot of times it gets exposed through deals. You see that fear being exposed through the deal cycle. And so if you're an entrepreneur and you find yourself afraid of something, sack up, okay, and start hustling. Hustling is the antidote to fear. Go create your success. Next, okay. All right, fake it till you make it. I've heard this from a couple entrepreneurs. Fake it till you make it is bullshit. Okay, if you fake it till you make it, that means you're living a lie. And if you live a lie long enough, you're going to be in pain. And you're going to start to sleep 14 hours a night, okay, because you can't wake up. So faking it till you make it is not a long-term strategy. Fake it till you make it is an insecure strategy. And again, that goes back to fear. If you're afraid, go hustle. It will solve your problems, but don't fake it. Now, here's another one. Funding doesn't solve all problems. Even some of the most hardcore entrepreneurs I've seen get caught up in this bubble sort of funding environment. Guys who are hardcore, gritty guys who can go and hustle and get deals and make sales and do the whole thing. And make their technology, amazing, product fit, product market fit, the whole nine. They get caught up in this bubble, and then all of a sudden they think they need to get their next round of funding. They think they need to go raise, whether it's a bigger angel round or, when they're maybe not ready, or they've already got their angel round, they need to go do a Series A or a Series B. Funding does not solve all problems. If you haven't found product market fit, chill out. Get your shit together, stay scrappy, get it done. I've seen people go out to get funding too early, often on a preemptive deal, and give away half of their company prematurely, and find that they get that money and they're not doing anything really different than what they would have done anyways. So funding does not solve all problems. Sales solve all problems. Hustle solves all problems, but funding doesn't always solve your problems. So this goes to one of the other things I was talking about. CEOs that survive are CEOs. If you're not tough enough, you don't get gritty, you don't hold on to your position, there are enough forces out there that will take you out. So the guys who are left as CEOs are the guys who should be CEOs. And there's so many, I see entrepreneurs that I'm like, you have the magic, keep going, but if they don't have the grit to push through, they won't survive as CEOs, even if they're awesome. So, don't think just because a VC tells you that you need to have somebody awesome or above you. In some cases, you have to be self-aware and know this. Sergey and Larry, they did okay for themselves. But check in with yourself. Make sure that's a decision you're making and you're not letting other people make for you. So, what I have next is, I call it the Formspring Me section, which is I'm asking myself questions. All right, here we go. So what is the jam pad? I think I've talked about that a little bit. Maybe I don't need to go too much into that. But, anybody who wants to come over, if you're in San Francisco, just send me an email. Come on by, we'll jam on an idea you're working on. We'll jam on an idea you're not working on. Technology problem maybe you're facing. Sales issue you're facing, marketing, whatever. It's a great place to hang out. I've had a number of people actually couch surf at my place. Couch surfing is a nice experience there because we actually have 3 bedrooms, so it's really bed surfing. But okay, all right. What the heck is this? How do you pick your? I don't know what that is. We're gonna move to the next. Oh, I know what this one is. This is how do I pick the companies that I work with? Okay, so let's see. I have a couple criteria. It's actually pretty straightforward. So how do I pick the companies that I invest in? One is the entrepreneur that sits across the table from me is somebody that either right at that moment in time or I see has the potential to be somebody that I could see being a co-founder of myself, like somebody I would co-found a company with. That's number one, right? Somebody I could get excited about working with in some world or in this one. Number two is the idea that they're working on is exciting to me. And that doesn't mean, oh, it's got to be social networking Q&A. If you're doing that, I'm in. Instead, is your idea disruptive? Does it shake things up? Will it make big impact? And does it make for a good cocktail story? That's sort of like a litmus test. It's like, if I tell a story, am I excited about it? Do my eyes sparkle when I tell the story of what this guy is doing? And it's pretty straightforward. Some angel investors are like, you know what? I go for the $30 million flips. I put in a few $100,000 and they sell for 30, and maybe they don't have the opportunity to go big. That's fine. That's not my style. My style isn't about necessarily where they exit. My style is about the impact and awesomeness of what they're doing. How do I get my pitch in front of you? There's some formatting stuff, I think, when it translated over this machine. Okay, so how do I get my pitch in front of you? Actually, the best way to describe this is actually, I should tilt this up. It's actually through examples. So there's a few examples that might be interesting. So for instance, let me think, what's a good one? Oh, CrowdFlower. So CrowdFlower is an interesting one because CrowdFlower was doing something really interesting in a space that I was interested in. I had been using Mechanical Turk at my previous company to QA my software. And I'm like, wow, like we would just do these manual test scripts. When I was at Akamai, Akamai had their own QA system, and I would have to freeze software development, send it over, talk to the QA team. They would schedule when they were going to do the QA, and that might be a month or two out. And then once they got the code, they would spend 2 months QAing it. And we got around that by basically writing the manual test scripts that we wanted basically to be done on our software. And then we would put it on Mechanical Turk. And in 48 hours, we would have 1,000 people who had basically QA'd our stuff. And it was on platforms all around the world. And we're like, wow. So one of my ideas was enterprise QA through Mechanical Turk. Well, they were doing some very interesting stuff with Mechanical Turk, so then I reached out to him. That's sort of the bullet there. I reached out to him and found him, and then we started working together, and then maybe 9 months later, we actually did the funding. So often I get involved before the funding happens. Another example, Formspring. Formspring, let's see, how did that go? I have a reputation for working with the companies that I'm involved in, and other investors that I've co-invested with, they've seen that. And their way, a lot of times other investors, their way of bringing value to the table is bringing me to the table. And so basically one of the lead investors for Formspring basically called me up and said, we have a slot saved for you if you want it. And you know, I was on vacation in Brazil. You know, I talked to the founders, you know, as much as I could, and I wired the money. But at this point, am deeply involved with the Formspring guys, probably spending 15 hours a week with those guys. Another example of how folks have gotten to me is Unvarnished, now known as Honestly, right? So if you guys don't know anything about them, they're really fascinating. It's Yelp meets LinkedIn and has a love child. So it's, how to describe that? It's public, anonymous reviews of people. It's kind of crazy. It's done in the professional setting, so it's done for how they do as a professional in business. Very controversial idea. But the way I found them was TechCrunch 50, this is the predecessor to Disrupt, they had a huge conference. I basically did a blog post. I said, if you are a finalist, one of the 50 finalists to present at TechCrunch 50, you can apply to couch surf at the Jampad, right? And I got like 23 applications. Obviously, I couldn't let them all stay at my place, but some of them did. And one of those guys who stayed there, you know, he presented, he did great, but he knew the guys who were doing Unvarnished, now known as Honestly. And that's how I got an intro. So the best way to get to me is through the people I know or just doing something awesome that I find out about. Man, the formatting's killing me. When should I go out for drinks? When should I go out for pizza? I think this is when should I go out for funding. This is actually one of the. Yeah, I like walking. This is actually one of the more difficult questions that I get. When should I go out for funding? My gut is like if you're sort of seed stage company. The way I look at this is you should go for funding as late as you possibly can. Go as long as you can scrapping. Get your technology and your traction as far as you can, and you will guarantee yourself the best fundraising process. That includes a quick process, that includes a competitive process, that includes good terms at the end of the day. Now, once you have funding, it's slightly different. You know, there is a timing element to it, but it's almost the same. I mean, you don't want to wait as long as you possibly can, because then you have, you have 10 employees and you've got 2 weeks left, and you're like, okay, it's time to raise funding. You can't wait that long. There's a timing element to it, but again, I would say push it out as far as you possibly can. If you're doing some good stuff, eventually those VCs are going to start reaching out to you, and you're going to say, oh, I'm not really raising, and they're going to try to preempt, and then you know it's time to do a real process. How do I get the best people? Man, I see so many blog posts about how do I get the best people, and how do I identify best people, all this. The way you get the best people, I actually have a really couple straightforward rules for this. There's a couple different ways. One is write a truly inspired blog post, like truly inspired, that describes the company, the mission, the vision, how it's amazing, why you're amazing, and why it's going to be amazing if that candidate comes and works with you. If you went to my blog, it's swooshing.wordpress.com, but if you went to my blog, you would see a number of those job posts that I've written for other companies, some of the companies that I'm involved with. So that's one. Number two, truly inspired networking, right? So if this isn't for everybody, but man, if you can go out there and work, really work the Rolodex, and really go out there and talk to everybody you know and find those amazing people and inspire the people you know to help you find amazing people, you're going to do a good job. Now, if you can do both of those, then what happens is you get amazing people quickly. And there's a few situations where I've seen that, but it doesn't happen very often. But if you do neither of those, you're going to have a mediocre team or no team at all. Are we in a funding bubble? The best way to answer that is it's better to be selling equity right now than it is to be buying. So I'm guessing mostly entrepreneurs in this room here. You guys are in the right place right now. I'm a switch hitter, so I fund companies, but I also start them. So right now it's better to start them. And blank. Okay. All right. So, anyways, that's all I got for today. If you guys, I think we have a few minutes. If you guys want to ask some questions, I'm happy to answer them. I hope this was at least somewhat entertaining. And thanks, Jen.
So for very, very early stage startups, what do you recommend in terms of advisors? And how should they think about their advisors? Should their advisors be given early equity or?
Yeah. So the question, and yeah, I'll repeat the question. So the question is, early stage startups, when and how should I bring advisors on? And should they get a piece of equity, and how does that all work? Many, many entrepreneurs have had really bad advisor situations, or let's just say disappointing advisor situations. There's a number of reasons why that can happen. One of the main reasons is the entrepreneur tries to squeeze how much they offer up to these amazing advisors. The best way to get amazing advisors doing amazing things for you is to figure out first, if you were to bring them on full time, what would you give them? Cash and equity. Then you say, well, I'm not bringing them on full time. How long am I actually bringing them on for? Like how many hours a week? I don't care what kind of value they think they bring. How many hours a week are they coming in? And that's a fraction of full time. And then that's what I would give them, is a fraction of full time. And if you don't have any cash, because normally if you brought them on full time, it would be cash and equity, then you turn that cash into equity as well. And that's a fair deal. You're valuing their time for what it's worth. And yeah, it's going to be probably bigger than what you're normally used to giving advisors, but guess what? Now expectations are built, which is bring the thunder, dude, and if you don't, you're fired, right? You now have an employee. Make them your employee and push them, right? Otherwise, what you get when you squeeze too hard, you try to give like 0.1%, you're going to get either an amazing advisor that doesn't do shit for you or a shitty advisor that does a lot of bad work for you. Any other questions? All right, I heard somebody say up top. Go for it.
From a seed perspective, you mentioned the scrapper perspective, and federal money or whatever sources, just some tactical ideas.
Yeah, I mean, get some customers. Right? So go live at mom's and get some customers. Right? Take the bus. Eat top ramen. Right? Right. Okay, so that's a whole other ball game. All right, so my scrappy days, no family, no girlfriend, staying at mom's. So if you have family, go to mom's. No, I'm just kidding. You may not want to do that. But yeah, if you have a family, it's a tougher deal. It's tough to be scrappy when you got a family. You got kids to take care of. You got a wife or a husband who's kicking your ass. So yeah, I mean, it's just the reality. You got to figure out whether being scrappy with a family is even possible. And so maybe that changes the dynamic of when you get seed funding, how you go get it. But remember, your competitors are going to be scrappy. So when the VCs or the angels see people coming in that already have a launch product, but you don't, you're competing with that. So you have to bring the thunder some other way.
Do angel investors today, are they more risk adverse, even though what you're talking about is those sort of technology startups are more smarter and they're waiting for a company to already demonstrate profitability before they get involved?
No, I think, well, okay, so as compared to what? Are they more risk averse as compared to what? If I compare it to angel investing or seed rounds 5, 6, 10 years ago, they're just more. There are more angels, there's more seed money. It's much more liquid. What I see happens a lot is it's a momentum play. Every angel deal that gets done is a momentum play. And so the key there is there's a whole set of things you can do in the art of the deal to make it high momentum, a high momentum play that gets you funded at the end of it. I wrote a blog post on that. It's called Seed Raising Skills, and there's like 3 Z's on there. But you can just go to my blog and take a look. But there's a process. There's an art of the deal to bring momentum. Angel deals are about momentum. And so you first gain that, you get that information out there, you get awareness, and then there's certain ways of saying things to get angels to start tipping over. And then when they start tipping, then it becomes momentum. And there's certain ways to play that. Other questions?
One more question. I think.
Okay, one more question. We'll do something down here. How about way in the back there?
You talked about that you want angels to come notice you. Should you be doing something communicating out there beyond just the work that you're doing towards your target market?
Write a blog. Make it interesting. And hustle the hell out of it to make sure that other people are reading it. Right? And linking to it. All right. Cool.